Hello, I'm David Annis, technical agronomist with Tiger-Sul products, visiting with you today about sulfur in soybean production. Sulfur is typically taken up in the plant in similar quantities to phosphorus. It's been widely ignored as part of a farmer's routine nutrient management plan until the Clean Air Act of 1990. Atmospheric deposition of sulfur has declined to a point where we've been mining it out of the soil with our crops. Sulfur, also called the fourth major nutrient, is critical to soybean production. Sulfur works closely with the nitrogen in soybean production as well as with other legumes. It's essential for nitrogen fixation, protein, and oil synthesis. Sulfur is a key component of the sulfur-containing amino acids, cysteine and methionine. These two amino acids are necessary for all non-ruminant animals and people in order to utilize proteins. In soybean, rhizobia bacteria infect the roots and convert atmospheric nitrogen to ammonia and then to ammonium. Cysteine is formed in the nodules and transported throughout the plant. Application of sulfur can increase dry matter, seed weight, and yields. It's important to understand that there are other bacteria involved in the conversion process and drive the change from elemental sulfur to plant-available sulfate. Conversion from sulfur to sulfate depends on the size of the elemental sulfur particle, the microbial population of the soil, the amount of water and air available, as well as the soil temperature. Now, let's explore some of the data. Tiger-Sul products conducted their own laboratory experiment documenting the relative release rates of Tiger XP, the gray line, versus Tiger 90 controlled release, the gold line, and a control sample, the red line. This is an average of a 3-year laboratory study. As you can see, the Tiger XP, that gray line up there, has a much higher release rate in the laboratory than the check. This is yet another reason that Tiger XP is a premium product. Determining sulfur deficiency in soybean can be difficult when compared to other nutrients. Primary symptoms include a yellow tint at the top of the plant where the newest growth is located and typically smaller statured plants. In these pictures from Mississippi State University, look at the healthy soybean on the left and compare them with a sulfur deficient soybean on the right. Would you be able to pick the difference out of a spot in the field? How about if the whole crop was deficient in sulfur? If sulfur deficiency is located across the entire field, visual diagnosis can be a challenge. In areas, sulfur deficiency has also been confused with excessive water, poor nodulation, nematodes, or poor drainage. It becomes necessary for you to determine which fields need sulfur. These can be done with tissue test results, check strips throughout the field, and or soil testing. Soil testing can provide some idea of possible deficiencies. As one of our account managers pointed out, if you don't grid sample, how do you really know a field doesn't need sulfur? Unfortunately for soybean producers, it appears the number of documented cases of sulfur-deficient soybean is increasing. This makes knowing what is happening in the field even more important. In 2020, Tiger-Sul conducted 52 research trials based in farmers' fields. These fields where the trials are located are typically ones that have been managed for sufficient nutrient levels, adequate pH levels, and are under an integrated pest management program. As a general rule of thumb, when sulfate sulfur levels drop below 15 parts per million or 30 pounds per acre, we strongly recommend Tiger-Sul products. When levels drop below 10 parts per million or 20 pounds per acre, we expect to see sulfur deficiencies unless sulfur is being applied. To the R&D team's surprise, 94% of soil samples on these well-managed fields were deficient in sulfur. Now, sulfur is not mobile in the plants like nitrogen. Soybean and other crops require season-long access to sulfur to ensure maximum production. In soybean, the sulfur demand by the plant is highest from growth stage R2 to R5. This would be from full flowering to beginning seed. This makes it important to choose a sulfur source like Tiger XP that can provide season-long sulfur to the plants. When providing Tiger XP sulfur to your crops, we recommend using nutrient uptake rates. The nutrient uptake rate is what the plant requires in order to grow and develop during the growing season. The nutrient removal is the amount that is physically removed from the field at harvest. The difference between uptake and the removal, in this case 7 pounds of sulfur, can make the difference in total yield and quality of the crop. A 50 bushel per acre soybean crop requires approximately 18 pounds of sulfur to be applied to meet its sulfur demand. Fertilized according to removal rates may result in visual deficiencies, quality, and/or yield loss. This slide contains some typical numbers to remember. Soybeans remove about 0.35 pounds of sulfur for every bushel produced. So let's walk through a quick example. A 40 bushel soybean yield would require 17 pounds of Tiger-XP. Now we get this by multiplying the 0.36 pounds of sulfur per bushel times the 40 bushels to get 14.4 pounds of sulfur needed. Since Tiger-XP is an 85% product, divide 14.4 pounds of sulfur by 0.85 to get the actual amount of Tiger-XP to apply to the acreage. I've been asked on several occasions why I use Tiger-XP. I tell people there are 3 reasons I suggest Tiger-XP. The laboratory test demonstrates quicker breakdown and conversion to sulfate. Tiger-Sul trials have shown consistency and yield increases. And finally, Tiger-XP has a better handling attribute for distributors, dealers, applicators, and the farmer. Tiger-XP does not experience the moisture problems like the other fertilizers, and the pastilles are harder. 2020 was a great year for soybean yields in our research plots. Looking at the 2020 data for 15 trials, evaluating paired plots with a t-test, we saw a 4.8 bushel increase in Tiger-XP plots when compared to the control. This reflects comparability to the increases we recorded year over year. Now, that's not to say that there's no variability in our research plots. For example, we've experienced everything from a 9 bushel increase to a 1 bushel per acre decrease. Our trials have a standard rate of sulfur applied over all the fields to ensure uniformity between the trials. Your yield potential can be adjusted by providing actual sulfur on a field-by-field basis. Well, that concludes my presentation on Tiger-XP and sulfur in soybean production. For more information, please contact your Tiger-Sul account manager or visit our website at Tiger-Sul.com.